What does this guy, and this guy all have in common? Well, under the 2021 HR5 Equality Act, they want to force you to deny science, religion, and common sense.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
They also seem to think that 3-year-olds can make life altering decisions and want you to change what you do, believe, and ultimately what you think about men, women, and the difference between the biological sexes. And worse, they want to marshal in a new dystopian thought laws that are dangerous, unfair, and about anything but equality. And that's why, no matter what you believe about this issue, freedom loving Americans should be up in arms about the new HR5 Equality Act. This is the Pirate Post Digest, and today we're going to get into all of that. Because on February 25th, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats finally passed the HR5 The Equality Act. And in principle, it sounds like a good thing. I think most of us want equality. I think people should be able to love who they want to love, dress how they want to dress, and call themselves really anything that they want to. And even out of politeness, we should be treating people the way that they want to be treated. But pretending that gender dysphoria, the feeling of discomfort or distress that occurs in people whose gender identity differs from their sex assigned at birth or in their sex-related physical characteristics, pretending that's normal doesn't help anyone. And pretending that the sexes are the same can be downright dangerous. According to the summary on congress.gov, HR 5 prohibits discrimination based on sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity in a wide variety of areas, including public accommodations and facilities, federal funding, employment, housing, credit, and the jury system. However, not everyone agrees with its implementation. Representative Jody Hice, a Republican from Georgia, says the deceptive bill called the Equality Act is anything but equality. As a pastor for some 25 years, I am offended, I am appalled, and I am outraged with what's in this bill. The problem is, like most things that are coming from the global elite, this new act is just really another draconian policy that brings anything but equality. It's written to allow the Department of Justice more power to stick their noses into issues related to sexual orientation or gender identity in really all areas of your life. Think of 3 songs, 3 movies, or the last 3 books you read. Now, can you think of one of those that didn't involve men and women interacting in some way, specifically based on their sex? So in other words, this law touches everything that you do, think, or say, even in your own home, your school, or your workplace. That's why it's so important.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
Now, for starters, this law effectively destroys women's sports and scholarships. The NCAA inclusion of transgender student athletes specifies the female athletes that were born male may compete within women's sports if they've taken testosterone suppression medication for at least a year. But it doesn't specify the dosage or the level of testosterone that's allowed to be within the body. So there's many gender athletes that are still competing with that higher level. And no matter how many hormones a man takes, he's always going to have some physical advantages over someone born a female. Because reducing testosterone does not eliminate the advantages that biological males have in competition. According to the American Council on Science and Health, men are bigger than women, period. Additionally, men have more muscle mass. Skeletal muscle constitutes about 42% of a man's body mass, but only 36% of a woman's body mass. This is literally textbook anatomy and physiology. But it gets worse. This act also completely shreds religious freedom. First of all, by outlawing religious customs and rituals that are part of the Christian, Jewish, Muslim, and most other faiths. For example, the Coalition for Jewish Values wrote a strongly worded letter to Nancy Pelosi explaining how several observant Jewish practices and cultures would be grounds for a discrimination complaint under this new proposed legislation. A few examples that they mentioned included things like separate seating at weddings, single gender dancing, and even separate hours for swimming. Next, it forces doctors to perform surgeries and forces parents to make medical choices for their minor children that they may not agree with. Catholic hospitals in California and New Jersey have already been sued by otherwise healthy women who have wanted to have hysterectomies to become more male. And parents in Ohio have lost custody of their 17-year-old daughter because they refuse to provide these body-altering testosterone supplements. Speaking of life-altering surgeries and medications, Health Minister Rachel Levine appears to believe that children should be allowed to choose their sex and given surgery and puberty-blocking drugs. Well, she was being grilled with questions from Senator Rand Paul. She refused to answer specific questions about parental consent while using vague generalities such as saying that transgender medicine is a complex and nuanced field with robust research and standards of care. Well, under this new law, doctors are going to be forced to perform surgeries or prescribe these hormone-blocking drugs on children, even though 80 to 95% of the children who are diagnosed with gender dysphoria start feeling okay with their birth gender by the time they hit puberty. But the safety infringements don't end with the doctors. This law specifically allows for biological men to hang out in women's restrooms, showers, and in prison. This is not a theoretical problem like they would like you to believe. According to the Daily Wire, a Seattle man citing transgender bathroom laws was able to gain access to a woman's locker room at a public recreational center while little girls were changing for swim practice. They also detail a story about a Toronto man claiming to be transgender who was arrested and sentenced to jail for sexually assaulting several women in a women's shelter after he gained access to the shelter and its shower facilities as a woman named Jessica. They also go on to list 3 more examples of sexual assaults caused specifically by men pretending to be transgendered. And this isn't a uniquely American issue either. According to the Daily Mail in the UK, transgender inmates have carried out seven attacks on women in the jails. But there are endless examples, but it's obvious to anyone who's looking at these draconian rules that it's going to put women at risk. Now look, I think out of a sense of human kindness, I personally believe that we should strive to be inclusive of everyone. And I think it's polite to call somebody by their chosen gender or their pronouns if they politely asked you to do so. And honestly, I think that not hiring somebody for a position just because you don't agree with their lifestyle kind of makes you a dick. But we can't legislate good manners. And forcing someone to hire, interact, or work with somebody that they don't want to is really a violation of their personal choices and their personal belief. And forcing behaviors and activities and interactions that are unsafe or unfair, like this act does, is just plain wrong. It puts people at risk, from forcing doctors to perform dangerous surgery or prescribe medication to children and adolescents, if those doctors don't agree with it, or to sexual assault situations in women's locker rooms, bathrooms, and prisons that already happen. It's also fundamentally unfair to women to compete with men in sports, where biological males have a distinct advantage. Men and women are different.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
So tell me, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. I know this is a supercharged issue. And remember, peaceful resistance is not futile. So have a great week. Plus, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure that you click the link in the description below and subscribe to Palm Tree Research right now so that every week you get the inside scoop on the latest infringements and the wins in your fight for freedom and liberty. If you enjoyed this edition of Pirate Posts, please hit the like and subscribe button. We would really appreciate it.